Welcome to episode 13 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. Today is November 13, 1927. We're in Central Europe's Golden Triangle, Prague, Vienna, Budapest, where the Mitropa Cup, short for Central Europe in German, or Mitteleuropa, crowns its first champion. And say it again with me, Mitropa. But why Mitropa Cup? It wasn't on a whim. It was policy in football in clothes. Austria's Hugo Meisl was a banker with a heart for football. He played, then became a referee, then manager of Austria's national team, and always an evangelist. And he wanted three things. 1. To consolidate Central Europe's lead in the game. By the mid-1920s, Austria, Hungary, and Czechoslovakia were tactically ahead. Meisl's logic was to put the best clubs under bright lights every summer, and that edge becomes structural, not episodic. 2. To fund professionalism. Cross-border gates would bankroll full-time players and coaches at home. A continental cup meant continental money. And 3. To create a feedback loop with national teams. In the very same year as the first Mitropa Cup, 1927, Meisl helped formalize a nations-only tournament, the Central European International Cup. Clubs sharpened players in Mitropa, national sides reaped it in the International Cup. Same corridors, same trains, same ideas. Now stress test twice a season. So why was Central Europe a first mover? Well, take Austria. Vienna's top flight professionalized in 1924, the first fully pro league on the continent. In Czechoslovakia, top-level professionalism arrives mid-1920s as the National League forms in 1925, and the game reorganizes around Prague. Hungary set up its formal professional league by 1926, with Budapest the engine. Yugoslavia remained officially amateur longer, but elite clubs were still accepted into Mitropa Cup as standard bearers. In Italy, after the 1926 Carta del Viareggio, nudged the game toward a regulated paid area. Serie A launches in 1929. Finally, Germany. National League consolidation and amateur/pro rules limited early Mitropa entry. Their giants arrived later, via other paths. Meisl's thesis was simple. Pay players, export matches, and import ideas. The cafés supplied the talk. Mitropa supplied the test. And surely the turnstiles paid the bills. Vienna's and Budapest coffeehouses weren't just for pastries. They were white tabletop think tanks. Coaches, editors, and players diagrammed patterns with cups and spoons. British missionary coach Jamie Hogan seeded a short passing gospel. Journalists and intellectuals gave it language. The region's watchwords, combination play, angles, third man runs, moved from cafe tables to training grounds to Mitropa nights. Mitropa's first bracket in 1927 took two clubs each from the four professional hotbeds. Austria, Rapid Wien and Admira Wien, Hungary, MTK and Újpest, Czechoslovakia, Sparta and Slavia Prague, and Yugoslavia, Hajduk and BSK. No away goals rule, aggregate over two legs, and replays if required. The quarterfinals roared. Sparta won 5-1 against Admira and Rapid 8-1 over Hajduk across the tie. 42 goals across 8 home and away matches. Semis tightened, and we saw how Mitropa Cup's regulations were enforced as Sparta advanced after MTK had fielded an ineligible player, and the no away goals arithmetic added theater. The final, Sparta Prague versus Rapid Wien, over two legs, became a statement. The first leg, October 30 in Prague, crackled. Sparta 6, Rapid 2. The captain Karl Peszek, Adolf Patek, and top scorer Joseph Silny starring. The return leg on this day in 1927 in front of 40,000 and with Dutch referee Willem Eimers at Vienna's Hohe Wartestadion. Well, it turned out to be mere damage control by Rapid, who won 2-1. Yet, Sparta Prague won 7-4 on aggregate and lifted the first Mitropa Cup, while Austrian police was holding back joyous crowds on the pitch. Message received loud and clear. International club football sells. Mitropa Cup hardened the habits that powered Meisl's Wunder team in the early 1930s. The club cadence became national. Austria Wien, Rapid, Admira alumni, players groomed by summers of Mitropa, formed the skeleton of a side that won the Central European International Cup. Matthias Sindelar, der Papierene, The café idol at center forward, dropping and knitting play, looked like Mitropa football personified. Angels over brawn, rhythm over rush. The feedback loop worked. Midweek Mitropa taught game management in hostile capitals. Weekends taught artistry at home. The Wunder team fused both. Across the Alps, Vittorio Pozzo was building a harder, steel-stitched Italy. Tactical discipline, athletic edge, selective pragmatism, and the controversial rimpatriati. The two men admired, needled, and studied each other. The teams kept meeting in the International Cup and in friendlies. The club systems shared players' airspace via Mitropa. 1934 became a hinge. February 11 in Turin at Benito Mussolini Stadium, Juventus' home. Austria beat Italy 4-2, a jolt that triggers Italian soul-searching. Pozzo doubles down on conditioning, pressing, and the metodo balance through the inside forwards. Selection hardens and the federation tightens every screw ahead of the summer in the second FIFA World Cup they are hosting. On June 3rd, Italy and Austria meet again in the World Cup semi-final played at San Siro in Milan. And in torrential rain, Italy wins 1-0 after 90 minutes of modern grappling. Swedish referee Ivan Eklund is savaged in Vienna's papers for allowing the decisive goal, while the Austrian keeper was bundled over the line with Giuseppe Meazza in the melee. To the Austrians, it felt like artistry drowned by force and indulgent officiating. In Mitropa Cup that summer, Admira Wien takes out Napoli, and in the semis, Juventus, before it all culminates with a two-legged final against Bologna, which the Italians go on to win 7-4 on aggregate. And let's not forget the political backdrop. During these months, Austria is in turmoil. A real civil war in February and the failed Nazi putsch in July, culminating in Chancellor Dollfuß's assassination, framed the season. Meisel's coffeehouse modernists are playing through tear gas politics. Momentum blurs. 1934 reads like the tipping point. Austria's golden age is in decline hereafter, and Italy's machine catching and carrying on. World champions in 1934 and 38, with Serie A clubs soon treating Mitropa as their summer proving ground. Bologna, notably, and Ambrosiana Inter shine, and the name Giuseppe Meazza becomes shorthand for the peninsula's rise. For Austria, 1934 feels like the inflection point. The art still glows, but politics and power are turning against them. Meisl succumbs to a heart attack in 1937, and Anschluss in 1938 puts an end to the café era. But what did Mitropa change, and what did it prove? 1. A proof of concept for Europe. Two-leg continent hopping, tactical cat and mouse, midweek gates. Mitropa demonstrated the format that the European Champions Club in 1955 and later cousins like UEFA Cup, today called Europa League, would industrialize. 2. A talent escalator. Sparta versus Slavia, Rapid versus Admira, MTK versus Újpest, Hajduk versus BSK, threw young stars into cauldrons months before national sides did. And finally 3. A shared vocabulary. Coaches from Vienna to Prague to Budapest argued the same words, tempo, triangles, transitions, before they faced each other every summer. Mitropa flickered back post-1945, changed shapes, and by the 1980s was a modest second-tier champions event. Some Italian winners there, even Pisa and Torino in the roll call. By the early 1990s, it finally fizzled out, its mission long since absorbed by UEFA's broader stage. Yet its DNA survives in every European draw and two-leg tie we obsess over. Mitropa still matters, because the first tournament, decided on this day in 1927, proved a region could organize, professionalize, and export the club game as a cultural product before anyone else on the continent. And the hinge year, 1934, tells us how quickly eras turn. The cafés gave the game brains. Mitropa Cup gave it borders to cross, but it was the man behind the Wunder team who gave it style. We owe a debt of gratitude to Hugo Meisl. That's all for episode 13 of OTD, Sparta's first lift, Meisl's grand plan, and the coffeehouse continent that taught club football to travel. Please subscribe, rate the podcast 5 stars, and share it with the soccer-passionate people in your life, Central Europeans or not. And email us at otd@17lawsguide.com with your ideas and suggestions. Tomorrow, November 14, the Battle of Highbury in 1934, England versus Italy. Pozzo's world champions in 90 minutes that felt like a treaty on grass. Don't miss it.